and Pastor Sungjin Lee for a quick message and a short prayer. Thank you.
여러분을 위해서 우리 전도사님이 트랜슬레이트 해주실 거예요. 비전 컨퍼런스에 온 여러분 모두를 환영합니다. 그리고 이번 비전 컨퍼런스를 열게 된 것은 여러분을 사랑하기 때문이에요. 그리고 언젠가는 우리 고등부 학생들 이제 졸업하고 대학교에 들어가든지 아니면 이제 사회에 나가게 될 텐데 그것을 위해서 여러분들에게 도움을 주기 위해서 이 자리를 함께 마련하게 되었어요.
We just want to welcome all of you guys to our event, and the reason that we have this event in the first place is because we love and care for you guys, and it is our desire to see you guys do well in college. So that's what this event is all about.
오늘의 주제는 문화 충격 완화 세미나라고 하는 그 주제로 이제 하게 될 거예요. 조금 어렵게 들릴지 모르겠지만은 쉽게 말하면은 어떻게 하면은 대학 생활을 잘 할 수 있을까? 그리고 사회 생활을 잘 할 수 있을까에 대한 그 이야기입니다.
So basically, for today's seminar, the theme of our seminar is called culture shock alleviation. So what it is that it's just about helping you adjust in college and also in the society as well.
여러분을 생각하면서 잠시 내가 예전에 고등학교를 졸업하고 그 다음에 대학교 들어갔을 때를 생각해봤어요.
So while thinking of you guys, not me, but he ended up looking back in his past life.
고등학교를 졸업하고 바로 서울로 향했어요. 대학교에 들어가고 싶었지만은 그때에 대학교 등록금이 없어서 대학교에 들어가지 못하고 바로 시작한 것은 공장 생활이었습니다. 양말을 만드는 공장이었는데 한 200명 정도 일하는 곳이었습니다. 공장 숙소에서 잠을 자면서 하루에 한 10시간씩 일을 했던 것 같아요. 그리고 그때 내가 받았던 셀러리가 얼마였냐면은 한 달에 $50. 하루가 아니라 한 달 동안 일해가지고 받았던 돈이 $50였어요. 지금도 작지만은 사실 그때도 작은 돈이었어요.
Okay, so after graduating from high school, he wanted to Seoul right away, and he wanted to go to college, but he didn't have enough money for tuition. So instead of going straight to college, he ended up working at a factory where there was about 20 people working there, and so he worked more than 10 hours a day, and after working for a month, he only got $50.
그렇지만 열심히 일을 했어요. 왜냐하면 이유가 있었는데 두 가지 이유가 있었어요. 첫째는 내가 1년 동안 열심히 일을 하고 나면은 이제 다음에 대학교에 들어갈 수 있다고 하는 비전과 꿈이 있었기 때문에 그래요. 두 번째는 하나님을 향한 믿음이 있었기 때문이었어요. 믿음이 있었기 때문에 실망하지 않았고 포기하지 않았고 믿음은 그때의 나의 모든 것이었어요.
And despite the fact that he was in a difficult situation, he worked hard for two reasons. First, he had a vision to go to college, and second, he actually had faith in God. So because of his faith, he was never disappointed and he never gave up, and his faith was his everything.
그리고 이제 마침내 1년 후에 대학교에 들어갈 수가 있었어요. 대학교에 들어간 이후에도 방학 때가 되면은 계속 일을 해야만 했어요. 낮에는 건축 현장에서 일을 하였고 또 그 건축 현장에서 일하는 것은 해가 뜰 때부터 해가 질 때까지 일이었어요. 그리고 저녁에는 밤 9시부터 새벽 2시까지 경찰서에 가서 그 방범대원이라는 게 있어요. 거기에서 새벽 2시까지 일을 했어요.
Okay, so after 1 year, he entered in college, and even after going to college, he still had to work. So he worked during the school breaks, and he used to work at a construction site during the daytimes, and he also worked as a patrol officer from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m.
쉽지 않은 대학 생활이었어요. 그렇지만은 그때 나는 기쁨으로 했어요. 앞에서도 말했듯이 미래에 대한 꿈과 비전이 있었기 때문이고 다른 하나는 하나님을 향한 믿음이 있었기 때문이에요.
So his college life wasn't easy, but he did it with joy just because he had faith and vision, and also like it was because of faith in God that he was able to do whatever the things that he was able to do.
모든 사람은 환경과 배경이 달라요. 그러나 여러분에게 목사로서 여러분에게 부탁하고 싶은 것이 있어요. 두 가지인데 첫째는 꿈과 비전을 갖길 바랍니다. 두 번째는 중요한 건데 믿음을 잃지 말라는 거예요.
So every single one of us here, we come from different backgrounds, and like just our personal backgrounds are very different. We have different circumstances. But as a pastor, I would like to ask you to do two things. First, I want you to have vision and dream for the future, and also second, don't lose your faith in God.
꿈과 비전이 아주 소중하지만은 꿈과 비전보다 더 소중한 것이 믿음입니다. 왜냐하면은 그 믿음을 통해서 하나님께서 이루어 주시기 때문에 그렇습니다. 여러분은 가정에서 부모님들의 아들 딸이지만은 또 여러분은 하나님의 아들 딸들이에요. 그리고 오늘 이 자리도 믿음 안에서 우리가 함께 만난 것입니다.
Despite the fact that our dream and vision are important, what makes it happen in the first place is our faith, and there's God Himself who makes it into reality. And what I want all of you to understand or remember is that we're all God's children, and also we're here in the first place because of our faith in God.
예, 대학 생활을 하되 믿음을 잃지 않도록 믿음을 지켜나가도록 하시고 그리고 오늘 이렇게 모인 것처럼 방학이 되면은 집에 왔을 때에 한소망교회가 여러분의 교회입니다. 여러분의 교회이기 때문에 꼭 방학이 되어 집에 오게 되면은 우리 한소망교회에 나와서 같이 믿음의 공동체를 세워가기 바랍니다.
I want you guys to stand firm in your faith, and don't lose your faith. And whenever you guys come back home, come home for breaks, just come to our church just because this is your home. This is where you guys grew up in.
예, 이제 마지막으로 이 비전 컨퍼런스를 준비해 준 모든 분들에게 감사하고 또한 무엇보다도 여러분의 전도사님인 우리 이승진 전도사님에게 아주 감사해요. 그리고 또한 오늘 키노트 및 패널로 수고해 준 여러분에게 감사한 마음을 전합니다. 그리고 좋은 시간 나누길 바랍니다.
Lastly, I want to show my appreciation for everyone who was involved in preparing for this event, and also I would like to give thanks to
Yeah, above all, I would like to give thanks for your pastor.
Interesting, but we're also thankful for the keynote speaker as well as the panels who are gonna help us out today, and I hope you guys have a great time today. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, this was supposed to be the part where I tell you what this event is about, but the pastor already told you what this is about. But just to reiterate, this is a college information session for incoming college students who are curious about what college is like, how to study, how should you guys even survive in college? And for our non-incoming college students, that means high school students or even grade school students, this is a chance for you guys to ask about the college application process and what you guys might need to discover what your dream is and what your dream school is. To start off the main portion of this event, I would like to first introduce our guest keynote speaker. He is the director of the Genomics and Biomarkers program in the Hackensack Medical University Center. And I was given 9 pages to cite all his acknowledgements, all his awards and stuff, but there's too many to cite them. And honestly, from what I can tell, he's a very educated, very acknowledged, and very prestigious man. It is my distinct honor to first welcome Dr. Steven Stahl up to the stage.
Thank you. Maybe we should donate some money to change that thing. But it's really a beautiful mountain. It's really high. It gets snowed in the winter. Very beautiful. So I just wanted to show you the next slide. One more push, please. So, to be professional, it's like climbing up the mountain. You hear this analogy a lot, right? You gotta climb up the mountain to go to the top. You're high schoolers, so you're starting to think about your career and everything. And there are multiple roads to be professionals, right? There are multiple roads to get to the top of the mountain. It's really important because you'll be climbing up the mountain for many, many years to go. Even though you become professionally trained out in the society, you still have to continuously be trained to get to the top of the mountain. And there are many ways to get to the mountain. You can see that people climbing up the mountain, sometimes they have a snow truck to haul you up to the top of the mountain. You can drive up to I'm talking about a Mount Washington. To get to the top of the Mount Washington, there are several ways. Now, if, you see that if in the red font, if for the survival, if you're climbing up the mountain for the survival, meaning that somebody's chasing you and they're going to kill you, you have to get to the top of the mountain in order to survive, just like how we try to survive out in the real society. If you have to climb up the mountain, not for the joy, but to survive, which way would you pick to climb up to the top of the mountain? Okay? You obviously don't want to climb like this. This is a lot of people, I'll show you, most people climb like this on a rope. They climb up step by step. If you don't know how to get to the top of the mountain, that's what everybody does. Most people, majority. And during the really high risk, it's snowed in, and if you slip, you're gonna fall and you're gonna die. People still climb up like that. Other people who knows how to get to the top of the mountain, and they use cars and snow trucks. Okay, that's the roads I'm gonna talk about. Next slide, please. Again, to get to the top of the mountain, I think taking a car is easy. Sometimes getting to the mountain, the roads are nice. During the roads of the life that you're about to experience for the next 60, 70 years, or perhaps maybe 90 years. Sometimes it's smooth, sometimes it's rainy, sometimes it's snowed in. Sometimes you have to go through this really risky road where if some stranger pushes you off, you fall off the cliff and you die. And actually, I think I heard about 3 to 4 people die every year riding the car to the top of the mountain because somebody makes a mistake. You consent that it's all your fault. Anyway, so the road is always there. Okay, get to the top of the mountain to get your career built. We just have to find it, which is the best way to get there. Okay, next slide. Did you know? I didn't know when I climbed up the top of the mountain. I took the car. I didn't know, but there's a railroad built in the Mount Washington. The reason is they have a conservatory for the first weather conservatory for the United States they ever built. The first one is on Mount Washington. It's on top of it. Okay, and they built the road and they have a train going there up and down all day long. I didn't know it. So I took the car. I thought that was easy, but a lot of people were coming up using the railroad and hopping onto the train. You just have to pay like, I think, $50, and zoop, it goes to the top of the mountain. You don't have to go through the risky road where if somebody pushes you off and you fall off the cliff, and you don't have to take the risk. You just take the train, rain or shine, snow, day, dry. It doesn't matter. All year long, you can get to the top of the mountain. If this was the road that you know how to build your career, wouldn't you be interested? Say yes. Of course you'll be interested. If you know how to get to the top of the mountain and there's a railroad built in for you, you'll be interested. I didn't know. I grew up in the United States and still building my career just like this. I didn't know that. Even for this mountain, I didn't know there was a railroad built in, and I just have to hop onto this little trolley. Next. So you are climbing up the top of the mountain all your life, lifelong learning. So where's investment? Investment is a green font, the green part. You start from elementary school, you spend 6 years, middle school 3 years, high school 3 years. That's most of you here, right? And then college comes up. Average college graduation is about 5 point whatever years this year's. Then the graduate school, professional school, 4 to 7 years, depending on which graduate school or professional schools that you want to go. And the postdoctoral fellow period or residence, if you go into medicine, another 4 to 7 years. That's all investment, the green line. Look over here. It's 25 years, 30 years of investment. You spend 25, 30 years investing just on your education, right? And then there's a real job for this career establishment, climbing up the top of the mountain. There's a real job. That's the return. You invest all this time, up to 30 years, you better spend that time right, because we're going to live for the 30 to 40 years, and you want the good return, wouldn't you? You want that return. If you mess up over here, you're not going to get a lot of return here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time dwelling on it. We could talk more about it during the panel session, okay? It's very important. You guys are all below 30 years old. You guys are going to live to 120 years old. Did you know that? Well, I'm telling you, my generation, who are 60 years old, we're going to live to 100. The medical devices, medical technologies advanced to a point where we're going to live 100. Absolute 100. People who are 30 years old, you're going to live 120. You are stuck here for 120 years old? It's a serious thing, right? The kids who are born now, they're going to live 140. Serious thing. You're going to have to open your eyes and ears and figure out what you need to do to get a good return, right? Okay, next slide. But there are a lot of things you go through. You don't like. You want to try. You want to be a musician one day. You want to do this the next day, the next year. There's a lot of changes. Even though you go through college years, there are changes. You're in high school. You want to become a doctor. All of a sudden, the next day, you want to be a lawyer. Next day, you want to be a policeman, the fireman, whatever, nurse. Well, that same thing happens even during your career establishment period. That's a problem. This one is investment time, so you can change. If you keep changing up here, wouldn't that be a problem? You keep changing your career? Because that's like you're falling off the mountain. You barely grab onto something, you're climbing up again, you change your mind and you change your career. Change your career means you go from postman to doctor to somebody who owns a deli shop. You know, that's a changing career. Not just changing jobs, I'm talking about changing career. Okay? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Now, this is not my data. This is United States government data that I'm about to show you here. This is from United States government. Put yourself in top 5% category. What does that mean? Look at this pie. Okay? Average bottom 80%. This one. About 80% of people own 7% of wealth. All the wealth that's going around you, 80% will only own 7% of the wealth. 5%, top 5%. Sorry that we have to talk about money at church, because, you know, faith, God, we're not willing to, you know, that's not what we always talk about at church, but I'm just giving you a reality check. If you're on the top 5%, you own 85% of the wealth. If you're 5 to 7% wealth, that's a majority. Majority of us out there only own 7% of the wealth. What's this pie here? Can you read that? Nearly half of it. Top 1%. If you're in the top 1%, 1 out of 100, you own nearly half of the wealth. Okay? You climb up the mountain, you better make a good decision. Otherwise, you keep falling behind. You're probably going to end up here. Majority of 80%. You have to be well trained to be on the top 5%, at least try to get into 70 to 80% range of owning the wealth. Okay? Now, U.S. Department of Labor. This is U.S. government. What does it say? 3 median years a person stays in one job is 4.5 years. Right now, in 2008 model, one person stays in one job for 4 to 5 years. Average person will have 15 job changes during 50 years of that career. Okay? Probably change career 3 to 4 times in their lifetime. Again, you're a postman, you become a nurse, then you decide to become deli shop owner, then you decide to become, I don't know, a lawyer, whatever. That's a career change. You keep changing your career. If you don't know what you like, that's what's going to happen. United States Bureau of Labor Statistics, this is United States government data. It says less than 20% of all jobs are advertised. Does that freak you out? All the jobs available in US now, only 20% are advertised. Does that shock you? Up to 80% of all the jobs are hired through other means. Network, a recommendation. Doesn't matter how genius you are, if you're just going to go to monster.com and try to get jobs, you fall into this 20%. 80% of the jobs are not advertised. Does that shock you? It should. Next slide. So, how do we do that? First, you have to build your well-being, and especially career well-being. You have to like what you do. You have to build a passion. You can't just keep changing your passion. It's not like changing boyfriend or girlfriend during your, high school, college years. You gotta really stick to something that you like. If you really want to become a medical doctor, and it's in your heart, you gotta stick to it. Okay? So how do we do that? This is a career well-being. First, you have to know who you are. Who am I? And next, you have to figure out, how do I get there? If I want to be a medical doctor, how do I get there? Who am I? What's in my heart? That's what I'm talking about. What's out there? Do you know what's out there? Well, you're here because you want to figure out what's out there, right? Because I'm about to tell you what's out there. And you already got some shocking information. In order to have all of this, and you have all of this in the centric model, is a career well-being. You know what you like. You know what your passion is. And you pick the job. You were educated for it. And you're going to build your career and start climbing up the mountain. Okay? How do we do that? It's very simple. You prepare, and you prepare, and you prepare. Well, how do you prepare? That's why you're here. You ask. You ask. You ask. Why don't you not ask? If you don't know, you ask. Well, I feel like if I ask that question, it sounds like a stupid question, and I feel stupid. Who cares? Okay, if you don't ask, you're not gonna jump onto the trolley that I talked about. You're gonna just roam around and start, hopping onto the rope and climbing out the mountain. Why do you want to do that? You ask. That's why we have 10 panels here. You need to quickly jump onto the trolley and just keep asking. Be confident, be passionate, and be certain. You gotta know what you like. If you want to become a lawyer because your father and mother wants to be a lawyer, forget that. Don't ever do that. Don't ever listen to your parents. If you want to be a someone and your heart says, I want to be a musician, you stick to that. Okay? But make sure that's what you want. Not because you went to a concert and you like the musician playing music. Okay? You look into your heart every time. But if you figure out that you're on a wrong road, make sure you change it. Don't just be there. Okay? Because if not, one of the days you're going to change your career. You were a medical doctor one time and you decide to become a lawyer. If you keep changing, you're not going to be an expert. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Next slide. This is interesting data. Death of a spouse. You married to a person, you propose giving a wedding ring, and you love them to death, and you decide to go through marriage, and you live 30, 40, whatever years. And your spouse died. Okay? Versus employment. In this case, it's unemployment. This is a life satisfaction index. Now, you live with a spouse for many, many years, and spouse dies, your wife or husband dies. You're very unsatisfied. Your life satisfaction index falls. You're very sad. But 2 years, you're normal. Does that shock you? Yeah, you live with a person for many, many years, your husband and wife. It could be your parents too. They died, you're sad. 2 years later, on average, you recover. You start to actually climb up. You're happier. Does that shock you? Well, it's true. It's scientific data. But if you have a really low self-esteem career that you don't like being a doctor, you don't like being a lawyer, you don't like being a nurse, I don't care what you do. If you don't like, your life satisfaction index is low forever. It never recovers. So what's more important? Your husband and wife? Again, that's just a joke. But what I'm saying is, your career well-being is very important. I just want to tell this to middle school and high school students. You have to have a good career well-being to stay healthy. So you have to start to think about it when you're in high school, especially when you're in college. Summary. How to career well-being. You gotta know what you want to be in 5 years. Do you know what you want to be in 5 years? Well, you have to. Why? Because I told you, you have to prepare and prepare. You cannot say, I want to be this, and you decided that, and you want to be a lawyer. You can't decide that you want to be a lawyer 1 year ago. You haven't prepared yet. You didn't have time to ask. Here you are faced with 10 panelists. You're about to ask them. If you're a college senior, you're a little late. If you're a high school senior, if you're a high school freshman, this is good, because it's time for you to ask. Okay? And then figure out if this is what you like. Next, meet people that meets the criteria and ask how to. Well, that's why we have panelists here. You meet people. You want to be a lawyer? You keep chasing around lawyers and ask them, well, why do you decide to be a lawyer? What's a law like? You keep ask. Throw a lot of stupid questions, because you gotta answer that, your curiosity, right? So prepare, ask. That's why this is prepared. And test the water and collaborate. Test the water with collaborators to see if you really enjoy what you're about to enter. If you want to be a dentist, work with a dentist during the summer or during school years to see if you like looking into a person's mouth every day of your life. You get up in the morning, you start looking in people's mouth. Do you like that or not? You gotta test the water. If you want to be a lawyer, work with the lawyer's office and see if you like looking at documents, hundreds of pages every day. If you don't like it, if your heart is not set on it, you probably is in the wrong water. Again, don't be stuck with something that you don't like. Don't become a medical doctor if you don't like working with patients. My youngest brother was like that for a while. He's a medical doctor. He didn't like working with patients anymore because he was really tired of working with sick people every day, morning to night. But he got over that. Next slide. This is kind of interesting statistics, but I'm not going to dwell too long on it. This is a medical school entrance statistics. Look, Asian population, we have about 20 million Asian population in the US. That's about 5%. About 40,000 Asian kids go to college every year. That's pretty good, actually. In Asian kids, including Koreans, Korean Americans, 30% of total. Of 150,000 kids go to college every year, and Asian kids represent 30%. And we only represent 5% of the population. We are pretty darn good. Okay? Forget about this, because this was another data. Here it tells you all the different colleges where they send schools to the medical school. Now here's an important point. Why only average of less than 0.5% of Asian kids apply when there's a 30% Asian kids go to college? Why only? Again, I'm coming from the medical background, so I have a lot of data like this. Why 30% go to college and only 0.5% apply to medical school? I don't know. You gotta look into your heart. We have a culture that parents never ask kids to look into your heart. They want you to be doctors, lawyers, or whatever. Parents never really look into kids' heart. You have to learn to look into your heart and tell your parents that that's not what I want. Stop telling me that. I don't want to go become a doctor. I want to be something else, okay? This data shows 30% out of kids go to college, only 0.5% apply to medical school. And out of this, only 15% gets in. Whereas Caucasians, 45% gets in. That's nearly half. Is that interesting? That data should shock you. If you're white, you apply to medical school, 2 out of 1 person gets in. You're Asian, especially Korean, 15%. Are we worse than whites? Absolutely not. We are much better than. Never mind. Next slide. So this is reiteration of that. 2014, 50,000 applications, 20,000 enter the med school. Okay? You gotta learn to look into your heart and make sure you want to go to medical school. Remember, 15% gets in. Okay? So there's something wrong with what we teach kids, what we tell kids. Next slide. This is interesting data. I want you to look at it because you're high schoolers and middle schoolers. This is from 1970 from now. What's this? It's a math Olympiad. This is a world's math Olympiad team. What's this blue line? This blue line is Jewish. Jewish dominated in the early 1970s, 80s. Who dominates now? Asians. Everybody thinks Jewish is smart. Okay, this is not to harass Jewish, but that's just the data. Okay? This is college Putnam math winners. Again, we dominate Asians. So it's here. This is physics competition. And we have capability, but you have to start learning into your heart. You have to figure out what you want. Okay? Next slide. Korean diaspora. We are spread all around the world. Okay, China, US, Japan, Canada, it falls in, but mainly 80% of Korean diaspora in US. We're here. Okay? Major Korean diaspora. In order to utilize what I told you, first prepare, second ask. You gotta look into your heart, make sure you figure out what you want. Okay? That's why all the panelists are here. But in order to really utilize that, you have to learn how to network and secure your future. Does that mean anything? Network? You have to really learn to network. Non-Koreans, Koreans, and others. This might not be doesn't maybe come to you directly, but you have to, how do you network? Can you network when you just do texting all the time at home and playing games? You gotta go to a lot of parties. This is something against what parents tell us. Okay. Not parties to get drunk, but you need to go to parties to meet people. Okay? Find excellent platform to build your network. Like church is a good network. You have seniors coming back to teach you or tell you their story. Ask. It's a good platform. They're gonna come back, maybe they will do this program every year. Get involved with professional network. Like medical network, lawyers network. I don't care. I don't know what you like, but you get into professional network and start asking them, and then prepare yourself. Next, please. And that's it. Did I mean 10 minutes? Is it a little bit over? Sorry, but that's it. So, with that, I think the next step is to turn the lights back on and have panelists come forward. And Hannah is preparing a icebreaker.
Okay, so right now we're gonna do an icebreaker, and if you don't know what that is, it's for us to get to know you better and for you to get to know us better. So we're gonna go up to you guys and have a conversation with you and get to know you better. I feel like that's easier than all of you coming up to the table. So yeah. So we're gonna go up there and ask them stuff about them. So Okay.
That's bad.
That's it.
It's a bad icebreaker.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna start now. No, you have to go up. Hi.
Hello.
Hey guys. What's your name? Hi. What?
What grade are you?
My name is
Senior. That's you.
Is how you interact with the panel in real time. There are two ways to do it, okay? The parents will sit still. Session is not for parents. We'll have parents involved later. But this is mainly for you guys, the junior high school kids. So if you are a little shy, you could ask questions by the instruction that's on the program book. But rather than texting the question, I'd rather you interact with the panel by asking questions from where you are, rather than texting in. But if you're a little shy, you can text in too. Okay? You can see that this is just the beta testing for everybody. Okay, so here it goes. The first question. Is there a first question that you guys have for the panelists? Go ahead.
Is college like worth the money?
College worth the money? Who will tackle that question? Is college education worth the money? Panelists, please raise your hand. Okay, go ahead. Please say your name and then we'll start. Everybody turn on your microphone.
Hello. Well, yes, college is worth the money because you are investing in yourself, which is human capital. So, yes, you may be spending, I don't know, $80,000 for tuition, but that's gonna be worth it when you use it towards a degree and get like a good job, because you can just like earn more money. So yes, it's worth it. Maybe not if you go to like a really expensive out-of-state school, but it's still worth it.
Okay, next panel. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, if you feel like you know what you want to do, it might not necessarily be worth it, but college is like a really good time to figure out what you want to do. So like, it's a really safe choice, and like honestly, as long as you don't make a poor investment and you go to a school that doesn't offer you too much money and is really expensive, it should usually be worth the money.
Okay, now I'm gonna ask a question back to the student who asked the question. Why did you ask the question? Could you say your name and kind of just throw it out on the floor why you asked the question, so that we're on the same page?
My name is Jacob M. I asked it because, like, I'm a junior in high school. I'm going to college soon, and I don't have all the money to pay for college.
He has no money for college. Okay. Anybody want to tackle that question? You have no money for college or not saved enough. How would you finance your college? Go ahead.
Hi. So, of course, not everybody has all that money to pay full to go to college, but colleges have things called financial aid, loans, scholarships, grants that will cut off from the original tuition and all that. And if you think about it, you can only go to college once. Usually it's typically 4 years. And in those 4 years, of course, you get a degree. Of course, you find out more about yourself, what you want to do, and things like that. But you also, that time is also there for you to enjoy your youth and make some new friends that may even last forever. It's all for the experience, so I would definitely say college is worth it.
Great answer. Okay, I will go to the next question. Raise your hand and ask question. There we go. Go ahead.
Going along with that, how would you, like, what kind of jobs can you get in college to, like, I don't know.
What kind of job is available in colleges to finance your college education? Is that your question? Okay, who will answer that? Go ahead.
So college, as part of financial aid, also offer things called work study. But even if you don't, there are a bunch of jobs. So I know a lot of friends who worked in the restaurants or the stores nearby my colleges, my university, or I particularly worked as a ticket seller at our Carrier Dome, the sports arena, or a lot of people work at the dorm rooms, the cafeterias at school. a lot of places.
Okay, some of the jobs available from college was mentioned. Anyone else want to tackle that question and tell them about what other jobs are available, not only in college but outside? Any of you have experience for that? Panel, go ahead.
I'm actually part of the work study at my school, and I work in the gym in the health center, and it's a really easy job. I get paid minimum wage, but it still goes like into your account, and you can use it. So I'd say it's worth it.
Anybody who tutors students during your college life or work at McDonald's or no one? Go ahead.
Ice cream.
So there you go. So key point is not to worry about how you're gonna finance college, right? The key is you go to college, invest in your life. You finance that no matter what it takes, you finance it. It could be your parents, you can work at McDonald's. 목사님 worked at 양말 공장. It doesn't matter. Does your heart says you want to go to college? Go to college and finance it. Okay, next question. How many parties are there? That's a serious question. How many parties going on in college? Who will tackle that question? It's okay. Your parents are here. Who cares? Who cares? Don't care about your parents. Who will tackle how many parties that I go and I know about parties in college?
I think the better question would be, how do you manage social life and your school work and all this stuff?
Okay, how do you manage your social life, including parties in college? Who will tackle that question? Someone from the panel who has not involved in discussion. Come on, time's ticking. This is not a tough question. Okay, it's not a rocket science. Go ahead.
Just learn to say no, because like it's not even just like what you do, it's just like how much you go out, or like if you just tend to go out like every night, or even if you're not gonna buy anything or spend money, if you're going out with your friends, it ends up taking a lot of time, and you don't honestly like just think about what you have to do and what you want to do, and just like try to go to what you want or what you have to do, because yeah, sometimes it might come back to bite you.
Okay, next.
Yeah, just piggybacking off what my boy Dwight here said. It really depends on the environment you're in. There's colleges where you're just surrounded by grassland, cows, and there's colleges like New York, colleges like New York University, where you're surrounded by everything that's possibly available to you. And honestly, it's the people who you're surrounded with, and it's ultimately your choices that determine how you're going to survive throughout school and how you're going to control yourself.
Okay, so social life is about sometimes saying no if the social life or the party has something that you shouldn't get involved, but it's also a lot of balancing act, as the panelists said. Anybody who wants to tackle that question more on this side? You haven't spoken. Do you go to parties or involved in social life? Okay.
I would say like going out with friends, yeah, it's for me, it's something that's hard to say no to because I like being with people and I don't like to feel like I'm letting them down. But I think it's like a really nice reality check. What is a really nice reality check is your bank account. Like, it's really expensive to go out, especially at my school, which is in DC. It's in the city, and like there's taxes on everything. So yeah, learning how to like manage like your finances and like budgeting and stuff like that is like really helpful and helps you to like prioritize what you need to focus
There you
on.
go. So answer is that there are a lot of parties, but you have to prioritize where to go because it costs you money. You have to finance your college, but you don't have enough money to go to all the parties out there. But there are parties out there. You haven't spoken. You want to tell them about social life?
You can study on the weekdays and then go out on the weekends.
Which is politically correct. Okay, we'll jump on to the next question. So that was the social life. The real-time questions coming up. Anybody who wants to ask the next question? Go ahead.
All right. They say your junior in high school is very important for colleges. And do you have any advice for an upcoming junior?
Go ahead.
So everyone basically tells you junior year is the year where your GPA has to be at your tip-top shape. You have to finish your SATs. And I'm gonna be here to tell you that the most important thing that colleges are definitely gonna look at is going to be 50% your GPA, 40% your college essay, and 10% everything else. From what I've been told and what advisors and whatever people tell me, they like to see individuality from your extracurriculars. Yes, you did cross country. Yes, you did Model UN. But what they really look for is how you express yourself in your essays and the fact that you can keep your GPA up while you're doing all those extracurricular activities. And I'm just gonna say this again, what really matters is your individuality and how you portray yourself to the college. And I think that's the most important thing.
Good answer. So again, to summarize that, there's a lot of balancing act going on. You have to do well in school, stay up and do your work. But if there's an important party to go there and network, right? A lot of balancing act going on. College life is a little more complicated than high school, junior high life, obviously, for obvious reasons. You wanted to say something.
No, not me.
Oh, you wanted to say something.
Well, depending on what, say, outside job you want, either during the summer or the school year, good thing that I wish someone told me to do when I was in high school, not just like junior year, would be to pick up like Microsoft Excel, because, well, unless you're trying to apply to Paris Baguette or Japan or something like that, you won't really need it. But say like you're applying to an office job, like a lot of the jobs nowadays, since technology is advancing, they're gonna want you to know how to do that. Like even just going on Monster.com or Glassdoor, like 50% of the stuff there, like Excel knowledge is a requirement. It's a big cutoff. In addition to GPA and stuff like that, but yeah, just like look at stuff that the job people want. That's like really simple to pick up. Cause yeah, I didn't know Excel before, but like just this semester, I just took like half the time, like some time on weekends, and picked it up, and I have a job now.
Good. Anybody want to tackle that question? Go ahead.
Like kind of to go off what Taewon said, to be a little bit more specific to your question, junior year isn't the determining factor for your college application. It's in the end like how you all put it together in your resume and how you make your extracurriculars like coincide with like your different activities and things like that. It's like making you seem like a different person. So in general, it's like you kind of have to sell yourself as a package in senior year. So like I don't want to like sound like a buzzkill, but like all your years are really important. And like if you're not too like don't stress specifically on one year. Like there is no year to do it. You know what I'm saying? So just think about it like as like a cumulative thing. And when it comes to the actual application process, then like think about how you're gonna put it together, and like try to sell yourself as a package from like what you've done.
Good answer. You haven't spoken, right? You want to say something about that question?
Sure. I think I kind of disagree. I mean, I do agree that every year
It's
is
okay to
important,
disagree.
but
So.
yes, no, yeah. But I do think junior year is very important. But for me, like, I actually ended up taking my like standardized tests my senior year, all of them, most of them. Yeah, because I was very bad with mismanaging my time. But I think junior year is very important. So there are a lot of like programs and such that can also help you apply to college that you can apply for end of junior year. One of them is QuestBridge. I don't know if you heard of it, but that's for like financially like financially. Yeah, if you're struggling financially or your parents are, it's a very effective or like it's a very good like tool to use to apply to college. But those things require your SAT and like stuff, your like activities to be done ahead of time. So in a sense, junior year is important and you can use that very wisely. I mean, it depends on how you use your time, but getting a lot of things done junior year does help you a lot because the earlier you finish things, the earlier you like figure out what you want to do or like how to like package your stuff. It just helps you, you know, and it gives you an advantage, I think, when you apply to college.
Okay. Just want to add to that, getting a good GPA, getting the standard exam done, get a good score, that's basic. I mean, that's just given. You have to do well and all that. Something that they have not mentioned that I want to mention is when you sit in front of the admission officer who's going to interview you for your college admission, you got to make them fall off their chair, right? If you sound like you're one of 1,000 people that just went through, you're not gonna stand out. So think about how you can stand out. That requires you to talk well, right? You have to talk well. Okay. So before I get to this, anybody who wants to ask the next question? Maybe I'll just jump. You want to ask a question? You look very enthusiastic. Go ahead.
Dwight said something about resume. Like, how would you cut down all this stuff, and like, how would you make the resume stand out? I guess.
Your college application. How do I make college applications stand out?
So I've been working on my resume for about a year now. So I should be an expert at this, but basically what you want to do is if you have a major that you want to specifically go into, that's the only thing, anything related to that specific area is the only things that should be on your resume. So for me, I was in education, so I had, on my resume, the only things I had were tutoring jobs, volunteering with children, my SAT scores, obviously, my high school diploma, all those things, but you want to make it into a page, so minimum details, but while being very concise, and everything should be related to what you want to do.
Go ahead.
You're a senior now, right? Going to be a senior now, right? Okay, so you're going to be using Common App, right? So when you're going to be using Common App, the Common App's going to be structured so that you have to lay out all your activities, you have to lay out what your GPA is, your SAT scores, whatever, right? On the activities, what I basically did was I stacked it with everything I did. And like Veronica said, I tried to stack it with the stuff that I was hoping to focus on in college. And I think for college specific wise, resume aside, if you really want to show that you stand out, and you want to show that you stand out for this specific field, try to put that in your essays, your supplements, your actual Common App essay. If you have an experience, if you have some sort of, like, any abstract idea that you can write about, anything that shows off what you can offer to that college and what you can offer to the world. And quite honestly, like, I just recently heard today some guy got into Stanford by just writing hashtag Black Lives Matter, just repeatedly throughout the essay. Colleges look for some kind of risk, and I'm not saying go with that risk and write hashtag Black Lives Matter like for every word. I'm saying find your own color and put it into your essay. And as I said before, your essay is what matters the most, in my opinion.
That's a good answer. Anybody want to add on top of that? How to stand out on your college application? Don't be like thousands, just a number. But you gotta figure out a way to stand out, and during the interview, you gotta make that admission officer fall out of their chair and says, "Really? We gotta have you in this college. You are just amazing." You gotta make them say that. And how do you make them say that? Any other input from the panelists? No? We pretty much covered that. Yeah, go ahead. Because this is the most important part of the application, is grades, SAT score, ACT, all the standard tests. These are all given. You gotta do well. There's no questions about it. But how do you stand out?
I just want to disagree with both Veronica and Daewon, because I think you should just look at your high school career, see what you've done, and then focus your essays, your supplements, and your major on what it seems like you're going to be doing in the future. As long as you're not applying for a different school, for example, like engineering, right? So say, for example, Daewon does a lot of biology extracurricular activities, but you want to do chemistry in college. Doesn't matter. You write about biology, what you want to do for biology, and like all that kind of stuff. Like, and you say, oh, I want to major in biology. because it structures you. It makes you seem organized, and it splits you apart from different people in high school because they're like disorganized. They don't really know what they want to do. But looking at your college like material and what you have, try and like cut it into something into a person that knows what they want to do, and like, I guess, yeah, sorry, it kind of agrees with your sayings. But yeah, like, but I just want, like, I'm just saying, like, it doesn't matter what major you're choosing because you can change that in college. I was like, I think that's the most important thing. Don't get so focused on what major you choose when you apply for that college because you can change that. Just like try and make it into something with the resume that you have and like with the materials that you have for your resume.
Right. Don't be afraid to change what you're gonna major in. You could go from the chemistry major to, I don't know, business major, but just make sure you know what to say and what you want to do in 5 years from now, 10 years from now. If the admission officer asks you, what do you like biology? You just start to say something, mumble something. Well, who's your favorite biologist? Then you just kind of go blank. Maybe Darwin. Well, what do you like Darwin so much? You know, they're gonna pick your brain, and if you know that subject and that's in your heart, you know what to say. If I ask you about what do you think about the security exchange at Wall Street, you're not interested. It's difficult to answer that. Okay, but if I said, tell me about K-pop, you might be able to answer that really well. So if it's a topic that's in your heart, you'll be able to answer that. Maybe we'll go to this real time. We covered how many parties there. How to find great mentors. Who wants to tackle that? How to find a great mentors during college life. Do you have mentors? Oh yeah, there you go.
So I went to Syracuse University, and in my school in particular, we were given 3 mentors. So you were giving a peer advisor, an academic advisor, and a faculty advisor right off the bat. And I'm pretty sure most colleges are similar to that. So they don't leave you out in the dark for you to find all of those mentors, all of those inspirations by yourself. They give you something, but most importantly, I say that you should, once you get into college or once you're ready to go to college, you should find out what you want to do. As Dr. Seo said, go to that. If you want to be a doctor, go to a doctor's hospital or something like that, and go start talking to people, asking questions, seeing what you want, and asking more questions, and trying to figure out what you want and meeting people that match yourself.
Good answer. Anybody else want to tackle on? Yeah, go ahead.
Not even that, but I feel like joining clubs and I guess like going to parties and like meeting people is really important because like you can find people that are majoring in the same thing as you or like I guess going down the same road as you, and you can ask them or like talk to them about how they got there, like I don't know what classes they took, and I guess they could become your mentors. So I think that's really important.
That's one of the important points too. You gotta learn to ask, and it's difficult to sit home and playing games or doing something with your phone to figure out who will be the great mentor. You gotta go to some places like I don't know, gathering, party, and ask seniors, college juniors and seniors, how did you find the great mentor? Do you have a great mentor? How did you find those great mentors? You gotta ask. And they might tell you, you know, what's your major? I'm gonna be engineering major. You know, I have a friend who's an engineering major, and he really works out really great with one of the professors. So how can I meet him? Well, come to the coffee shop tomorrow. And you know, again, you gotta get to the gathering. You gotta learn to talk to people, and then they'll show you who your next great mentor will be. Who will we're still on the mentor. So who would like to go ahead?
So I think for me personally, I completely agree with Janice and Veronica. I think, yeah, clubs, there are events, and like just your advisors are good mentors. But personally, I found that my mentors come from my church or like just the fellowships around me because I feel like connecting, this is just for me personally, but then to connect on a deeper level and to understand spiritually and just to have that bond, I think it's so special and so different because, yeah, going to a club, going to a party or going to